in forever fixing the boat. Here's Ian. Dun dun dun. What are you doing?
Fixing the boat. Hey everybody, and welcome back to SV Blown Away, the only channel who tells you how it really is. No clickbait, no drama, we just get on and do it. And we are Nat and Ian, and together we live on our 50-year-old steel ketch called Blown Away. And in last week's video, a quick refresher coming up next, we found some horrible rust.
This was the worst one. This is the one that Ian's been concerned about.
Having spent 20 years filling the memory bank and not the money bank, we don't have the cash to pay somebody else to do this. So the buck stops here, literally.
It's recently been a bit hot in Greece, as most people know. So we've decided to go for a more ventilated galley.
And you join us on anchor in Corfu, Greece.
Right?
Yeah. Some oxygenation. And with all the rusty scale removed, it's now time for us to apply some epoxy paint to give it a primer coat that will stop this from going rusty overnight. Because even though we have 35 degrees of temperature during the day, we often have moisture on deck.
Surprised you're doing it. I'm usually painty girl.
Well, I thought you were going to get on with the hoovering.
Yeah, but then you asked me to be a videographer. So many different tasks to do.
Well, else everyone thinks that you do it otherwise.
Yeah, Ian's only doing all this job so that it makes people believe he does do something.
Exactly. Now, how do I paint this? I've had to push the windows back in really quickly. Windows are in, obviously they have no sealant on them. So now all of this lovely moisture, which was not in the forecast yesterday, is now going down inside of our windows. Four windows out. Air steel. Time to mix up some epoxy. We're using West System and we're using colloidal silica to thicken it up because we are applying it to a vertical surface and we don't want it to run off.
What have you done this morning?
Sticking goop everywhere. Let me show you.
When the handle.
So we've gooped up the big hole.
Goop.
We've bonded the wood to the steel because I need to close that gap so that I can epoxy it a bit more. That's not nice. And yes, that's not a good repair, I know. I want to weld a steel plate back in there, but guess what? It's a massive job. We're on anchor, in case you haven't noticed. I don't have any argon and that will need to be TIG welded to reduce the amount of heat going into it. I can't stick weld it. So that's got to wait for now, unfortunately. But yeah. All of it is now faired, ready for sanding once it goes off rock hard. Unfortunately, last night's squall didn't do any harm. I was a bit worried that the rain might have gotten into it, but it seems dry. We managed to push the windows. We managed to push the windows back in a slot, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, we deployed the tent out just as the rain started heavy, so I think we got away with it. But yeah, fixing boats on anchor. Good morning. Another day in paradise. Another job to do. Last night we had some rain. I can't believe it's been raining because we took the sodding windows out. Unbelievable. So yeah, we're now at the point where we've got epoxy on and I need to make that there. That scallop that I took out, which was just rust. I need to make that good. The other two are okay. Just that back one. Bit of a pain, but here. Sanding today. And because we have problems with our batteries, you couldn't write this crap, seriously. Let me sit down and tell you the story. Our batteries won't run the inverter anymore. Unfortunately, our batteries are deceased. I've purchased some lithiums because they're on offer from Renogy, and they're sitting in the cabin, but I need other components to wire them in. I need to make new battery trays to make them fit because they're a different size, which is a winter job. There's no way I can do it out here on anchor. Oh, that's interesting. It's so rolly here, look at this. Literally, I've had to tie the hoover using the power cable. So the things with a steel boat, the problem is with a steel boat, they don't want you to work on them in the marina because the sparks go everywhere and then all that white gel coat gets rust stains on. So understandably we can't just do that in there without sheeting everything off, which is difficult, and I don't like all the plastic. So we do it on anchor, but we choose an anchorage where we can't really offend people because of all the other activities that are going on around us. Isn't that right, Nat?
Like little barking dogs.
We like dogs. We're dog lovers, so I don't care about a dog. The super yacht tenders on the other hand.
Super yacht tenders, aircraft.
Yeah.
Busy main road.
Yeah, busy main road, aircraft. So yeah, I figure I can run the genset and not piss off too many people. So today we are sanding, and hopefully we get to the point where I can slot the windows back in again and not have to cover the window holes up with bin bags when it rains. It's crazy, there was no rain in the forecast. There was no rain in the forecast at all. For days and days and days and days, all it showed was brilliant sunshine, clear skies. The minute we took the windows out, as soon as we popped the windows out, poof, as if by magic. So annoying. Hey ho. Anyways, I got work to do. Can't stand around chatting to you lot all day. See you later.
Wow.
Battleship grey.
Battleship grey?
Yeah. We're fitting a destroyer screen and I'm painting it battleship grey because I've always wanted a warship.
He's always wanted a grey boat or an orange boat.
Yeah.
Luckily he's chosen grey because I think the orange might not fall in line with BA's lines and classic looks.
I'm sure grey would, to be honest. But, you know, I'm in for the adventure. I'm up for the try.
So Ian is currently putting on more grey primer, having sanded back the epoxy layer that we put on to ferret.
This now has no rust.
Whoop whoop!
Visible.
Why do you have to ruin it?
Because rust is everywhere. Get used to it.
Can we get a plastic boat now?
You have to hug the rust.
Now he's just painting tape.
Yeah. Now I want to make sure that the bare edge of the steel is painted, because obviously I've been in there with a sander and a grinder, so it's really important that I get the edge of the steel.
So the bit he's talking about is that bit just
yes,
there.
this bit along here, which is the cut edge for the windows. We're good.
You want the camera outside?
I can show the good people what I'm doing. Is it still recording?
Yeah.
So here, look. Join us, watch paint dry.
Hey, we should have a paint party.
Yeah.
People would love to come and help us do this.
Paint party, what a brilliant idea. Who invented that, I wonder?
Someone that got bored of painting on their own.
Someone who doesn't like to paint. Pretty good on this front window nut. So initially we cleaned out the rust using an angle grinder. We've then painted it to make sure that we don't get any further corrosion. We then added West System epoxy to fair the window so we have a good edge. We're then building up paint layers, and between each paint layer we sand. And the grit of the sandpaper changes each time we do this so that it gets smoother every time. It's a laborious and time-consuming job, but if done properly will give you a good finish, almost as good as paint spraying. Yeah, I'd say the front window is good for a top coat. Need to mask off the woody section and along the treadmaster, because I'll paint this lower deck bit as well. If I'll carry on along the side now, I'll get the rest of it to that point.
This Bosch sander has a random orbit, meaning that it has an elliptic motion to it. So providing you keep moving it around, it's unlikely that you will get swirl marks in the paint that you are sanding. And the sandpaper pads that we use with this machine are Velcro backed, so we can easily switch between a low grade grit which cuts a lot of material off to a higher grade grit where it removes less material and leaves a smoother finish. This particular machine also has a workshop vac attachment, so we are able to run the generator, the hoover and the sander and not create quite as much dust. And the videos can be deceptive because this job has so far taken us 1 week.
Just paint's quite runny already, isn't it?
Yeah.
I probably don't.
I thought that.
I probably don't need to thin that. Let's see.
We have initially painted 2 coats of primer on top of bare steel. We then used a fairing compound to get the surface smooth. Once that was done, we've applied another 2 coats of epoxy primer. Sanding between coats ensures that brush marks are completely removed. And now we can apply a top coat. And the top coat is a white epoxy gloss. And we will apply a minimum of 2 coats of this paint depending on the coverage. So if the grey primer shines through, we apply more white paint. Now this will chemically bond if applied within 24 hours of each coat, but we prefer to flatten back between coats using a 240 grit sandpaper. This removes any brush marks that were left over from previous coats.
Top coat.
Spread it all around and then do your finishing strokes. Ooh.
He said.
She said. Spread it all around and then finish it off. This is why people use rollers, is rollers just spread the paint a lot quicker. Gives you a bit more time to work the paint with a brush. That's why they roll in tip with a brush. But to be honest, I think if you get used to using a brush, you can do it straight off with a brush. The last few times we painted the hull, we've only used brushes, we haven't bothered rolling.
Having used a grey primer, we now have to apply quite a few coats of white paint. because the grey primer is bleeding through the white paint, but that's a good thing.
So the windows are ready to be taped back on, yeah?
Yeah.
No, but I heard you can just tape your windows on from the outside nowadays.
I get where you're going with that. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Sticking them in with some Gorilla Tape.
No, not Gorilla Tape. It's a special tape.
Gorilla Tape. I'm not keen on the idea. I can see them being washed away whilst on ocean passage. You know, we've taken waves over the deck on this boat that I've often thought would break a window. If they were just bonded in, I think I'd be a bit twitchy, to be honest. If you're just going around a boating lake and all you're trying to do is keep the rain out, different story. That's just my opinion. Who cares?
And whilst the paint is drying, we can get on with a few other jobs. Preparation is the key to this. If you clean everything up, you prep everything properly, it will seal.
Just cleaning all the old sealants off. And some of this is paint as well. It's like that. Just taking the paint off. Hey ho. But yeah, they'll clean up. I can reuse them. There's no way I'm going to get windows the same size. Currently have 3 which are ready for the paint. The 4th one needs a big repair, which we can do, but it's going to take me time, so I'm going to get the windows in on the other 3 because it keeps raining right now.
Right. It does keep raining.
And while I'm doing windows, what are you doing?
The frames.
The frames.
Sanding down the interior frames to put some varnish on, ready to reattach the windows from the outside because they screw through these.
They do. So the screws go through the window frames, through the steel plate, through the teak veneer, and then into these big frames. And in several places the screw holes are enlarged because they pulled out of the wood. So I need to epoxy these up as well. Bit of a bummer. So how's your liveaboard lifestyle? You look like an Instagram model.
Yeah.
Seen you before somewhere.
Yeah.
Hey, your shorts match the tape.
Yeah, you've got to be matching.
And whilst I clean the external frames, Nat is working on the internal frames. It's so much easier to varnish these on deck than it is to try to varnish them when they're back in situ.
That's the internal frames. So what you see being varnished now are these wooden frames that go around inside of here that the windows sandwich into using screws, which we're currently varnishing. It's okay. You're going to get dusty, isn't it? It's fine. You can't expect it not to be dusty. It's okay. It's better than they were.
Yeah.
They look pretty good actually. I'm happy with those window frames. I say we'll do the inside as well. Hopefully we are reinstalling a couple of windows. Namely this one and possibly those other 2 down there as well. Put some paint on there yesterday. The paint's quite good. Quite happy with the paint. And yeah, working our way around them. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to draw around the window using a pencil so that I know where to Sikaflex, because these are going in with Sikaflex. I'm not putting them in butyl. Butyl expands under heat, and yeah, we've had a few problems with it. Like this is all butyl here. It just squeezes out. The same on the hatches. It just squeezes out too much for my liking when it gets hot. It's too soft. So we're going to bond them in the hope that they never come out again. We did this one. I said we did this one last year. And this one's just fine, perfect, nothing wrong with it, no leaks. All the sealant's nice and solid still. So that's UV proof sealant that we're using from Sika. Not that we're sponsored by Sika, but I just mentioned it. Yeah, so let's draw around this one.
Preparation, preparation, preparation. Take a look at the reflection of my hand in the paint. That is a quality gloss finish that will protect this boat for years to come.
So I epoxied all these holes.
So I have already over drilled the hole sizes and refilled them with epoxy, so that when I re-drill them, I'm never touching the steel plate again with the drill bit. It is just epoxy that you can see coming out.
I should hit all of the exact same holes.
Yeah. And this is just epoxy and paint, right? There's no metal coming through.
No. Perfect. Sorry, now how are we putting these windows in?
We're just going to put some tape on the outside and then some tape on the glass, and then you just peel back the sticky back bit and then just...
So like double-sided sticky tape.
Yeah.
Have you been watching too much Blue Peter?
Once the frame and the aperture are masked off, we can do a dry fit. Now this is really important, because if this window is sickered and you try to put it in, if it doesn't fit, you have got one enormous
Dry fit
mess.
my frame on
Yeah,
it.
dry fit your frame around there. I'll push on this. I think like with that, now that we know it goes over the aluminium casting, that's not going to change. What you could do is smear a little bit of washing up liquid just around that inner edge, so that it's got some lubrication going on.
I've only got like a millimetre lip, that's it.
Okay, that's fine.
It's definitely going to fit, it's just... there's
Yeah.
nothing holding on.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, that makes life even easier. Okay, what are the screw holes like in the back of that frame? This one wasn't swollen, so these screw holes should be good. Yeah, they are. They're all small, so the screws should go back into these. Whereas the other ones, some of the screws are pulled out where the metal's swollen up from the corrosion underneath the frame. So as it's swollen, it's stripped the wood because the screws have been pulled out. Okay. Step away from the Sikaflex.
Do anything, can I? And make sure it doesn't squidge through.
All good? Right, if you put the frame up in situ, do you reckon you're on existing holes? Yeah, looks like you are. Okay, I'll do the diagonal.
Well, that is number one window back in place, and number two went in pretty soon afterwards, and we're now going to concentrate on the rest of the prep work to get window number 3 and 4 back in situ.
Good morning! Day of rest.
What else would you be doing on a Sunday? Is this or a lawnmower?
Yeah, true. When you look at it that way. So, yesterday we epoxied this whole area to flatten it off and fair it and thickened epoxy. And this morning we are flattening it all off so that A, the window will fit back in, and B, so it's a nice smooth finish ready for paint.
And that nasty little piece in the corner, well, that was repaired using epoxy and some glass mat.
You've got tape down the back of this.
Down here, yeah. You almost dribbled the GoPro.
Didn't see you. Didn't see you. It's an insurance claim.
It was like here. Go along like this, bashing, and then fold back.
No, just scrape. Just scrape down the edge. Down. So like that. You should be able to get to the tape. I can always hand sand a little bit anyway. That's it. Come on. The trouble with those chisels, they're the old ones, they get used for all sorts of crap. So they're exceedingly blunt.
This is the same brand, but it's called, it says Pelicon Uni Primer, but it's a 2K epoxy primer.
It doesn't seem as thick as that other stuff. It's okay, but it's not, it doesn't feel as like
The only difference is it says Uni rather than just 2K epoxy primer. It says 2K epoxy Uni primer.
in other words, it's been the college and it's a smart paint.
Maybe.
That generator can go off now.
What are we doing today in 35 degrees of heat?
Forever fixing the boat.
In Forever Fixing the Boat, here's Ian. Dun dun dun! What are you doing?
Fixing the boat.
So this morning we've just given it a final sand, and now the final, well, some top coat is going on. Hopefully it'll be the final lot. We shall see.
It's so hot, this paint's just going off it. Like super quick.
Like soup.
Super quick.
Yeah, so this is the final window. The other three are already in. Well, the final one on port side.
Yeah, we've still got the other side of the boat to do.
Let's not get carried away. So this is the final window. This is the galley window, and once this is done, tomorrow we should be able to reinstall the window, which is good because looking on the forecast at the moment, there is a lot of thunder and lightning coming down the mainland coast, which is just over there.
Just what we need, some rain.
Yeah, we love rain. Although I'd actually murder some rain right now.
I would. We're back up to 30 plus degrees again.
Yeah, I said to Ian a couple of weeks ago that it wasn't really healthy for him to do this job in 42 degrees. So I actually vetoed the job at that stage and said, no, this is ridiculous, stop. And now we've started the job. We did the first three and it was maybe like low 30s. Today it's back up to 35 degrees.
Yep. Today is indeed hot.
Hot. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
No, please don't. Please don't sit. Just need to get rid of the build up of epoxy a little bit more, just so the window fits. It's pretty close. Okay, it's pretty good. How much of that wood's exposed? Okay, can you push the window back out please, because it's quite a snug fit. Yeah. Okay, I got it. Take that.
Should we wipe some of that dust off first?
We'll wipe the line off, but okay. We'll be good. Right, now I'm going to start with the four corners to pull the wood in, okay?
I don't.
It's terrifying how much of that stuff's going in the bin, really.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is the end of that. No more watching paint dry. And join us again next week when we are at the Southampton Boat Show in the UK, visiting the Spirit Yacht stands, taking a look at the new 72, and we meet up with some Patreon and Ko-fi supporters. Shh, here's a sneak peek at the 68. It's just been launched. And in the coming weeks we will be sailing this boat with Adam and Kiara from Millennium Falcon on a delivery. And a huge shout out to our monthly Ko-fi supporters, the McKenna family, David, Eric, Captain Svetlana, and our new kid on the block, Trev. Also thanks to these guys who have sent us donations towards camera equipment, much appreciated, and of course our monthly Patreon supporters Matt, Michael, Ian, Par, Miles, Eric, Tim Yoffey, JG, Graham and Jeff. Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, a like and share it with your friends, and hopefully we see you again next week.
And you were my first one. Cheers to all the memories, the venom and the reminiscence.